How is it going, Bears fans? Welcome back to another episode of Beared Down Uncut, the show where we talk everything Bears every day of the week. Today, we are back reacting to the news that Matt Nagy is expected to get fired following the Bears' Thanksgiving game against the Lions. We're going to be breaking down this news, talking about whether or not it's surprising to us, discussing the validity of it, and whether or not it could actually happen, and also talk about who possibly could be the Bears' next interim head coach. Before I introduce myself and my co-host, I would like to say another double upload today. You're seeing this first probably around 4 or 5 p.m. Central Time. We'll be posting our Week 12 pregame show later, talking more about Bears Lions, but definitely had to get a video out on this. So if you want the most comprehensive Bears coverage on the web, do us a favor, drop a like, subscribe, follow wherever you may be listening, because we're going to keep coming back to you guys all week with Bears content. I am your host, Chris Malpe. Today, to discuss this news, I am joined with my co-host, Parth Shaw. Parth, what's going on, my man?
Doing pretty good. Just enjoying being back home. Thanksgiving's coming up. Spending a lot of time with the family and just friends from high school and stuff. So it's nice to be home. I know Chris and I are only 20 minutes apart, so we'll try to do something this weekend as well before we all head off to college again. So yeah, just relaxing and enjoying my time.
Well, I'm glad you're doing well. This COVID-19 booster I got yesterday is kicking my butt, and it's the reason you guys didn't see or hear a podcast yesterday. But we're back. I'm rallying. I'm trying to fight through here. And we have some very, very important news to break down today. So let's jump into this. Yesterday, The Patch, which is a very well-known news source in the Chicago suburbs especially, they basically have outlets in every town and in Chicago. The Patch, as well as NBC Sports Chicago, reported that Matt Nagy will be fired following the Bears' Thanksgiving Day game against the Lions, regardless of outcome. The Patch's Mark Tonkel also said that the Bears informed Nagy on Monday that he was going to be fired. Obviously, in his press conference, Nagy denied it. And there's a lot of ambiguity around the situation because no one really knows if it is really true or not. Obviously, Nagy's not going to come out and say that he's getting fired. And obviously, the Bears kind of blundered the situation yesterday because it seems like the end game of this is him getting fired anyways. But Parth, some decently credible news coming out yesterday and reposted by NBC Sports Chicago, a source that we trust here in the Chicagoland area. Does this move and this news about Matt Nagy possibly getting fired on Thursday night surprise you whatsoever?
It definitely doesn't. The Bears are currently on a 5-game losing streak where things just have not gotten better. Offensively, we've seen the struggles basically this whole entire time when he's been the head coach for the Chicago Bears, and he gave up play calling this year, and he had to give it up last year. I don't know if I think he's given up twice so far in his career with the Bears. There's just been a lot of things that have gone wrong this year, especially compared to past years. This year, the way he dealt with Justin Fields in training camp, I thought that was just horrible. I think Justin should have been at least getting some first team reps coming into the season, and he didn't get those, and that falls on the coach. And then also just the way the offense has been schemed. We're dead last in almost category, and he's supposed to be this offensive-minded genius, this quarterback guru who was supposed to come in and teach Mitch Trubisky, and that obviously didn't happen. And now he's got Justin Fields, and things aren't even getting better. If anything, they're getting worse with how we were with Mitch and now with Justin. So someone definitely has to go, and Nagy is one of the problems, if not the biggest problem. But it definitely sucks, especially with the way the fans, the chants and stuff and everything's, this whole city wants him out and stuff. It's going crazy. But there's a matter of respect. I think he deserves a lot of respect for what he's done with the Bears also. He took us to the playoffs a couple times, something a lot of other coaches weren't able to do in the past. So I'm going to give him credit where credit's due, but the offense, something that he was supposed to work on, something he was supposed to make a lot better, has not gotten any better, if not gotten worse throughout the years he's been here.
Yeah, the Bears have had 30th or worse in net offense each of the past 3 seasons with where they currently stand now in 2021. And we'll see what happens to Ryan Pace moving forward and other things. But it seems like everything's kind of falling like a house of cards in Chicago right now. We saw the report on Monday from ESPN's Jordan Schultz, which was basically a direct correlation to Allen Robinson, saying that there were players that wanted Nagy out, and when Nagy had COVID, the players had fun at practice for the first time, and that he's lost the locker room. And then this morning, some more reports coming out about people saying that George McCaskey was the one that said, hey, you have to start Justin Fields. We cannot continue with Andy Dalton. So this move doesn't surprise me at all. The Bears offense hasn't been getting going. As you mentioned, Parth, I respect Nagy a decent amount as a head coach. I think he's been carried by a lot of very good defensive units in Chicago the last couple of years. So if this news is true and we're hearing about it now, and we're within 48 hours of Matt Nagy not being a Bears coach anymore, absolutely not. It doesn't surprise me, regardless of the outcome tomorrow against the Tim Boyle winless led Detroit Lions. Let's move on to the validity of this, though. We already talked about it not surprising us because it seems like, regardless, Nagy's going to get fired at the end of the season. But Parth, I want to pass it back around to you. There was a little bit of a firestorm on Twitter yesterday of people going back and forth on whether or not this report was real and valid. It seems like for the most part that it is, but the Bears kind of blundered the whole situation with how they handled it with press conferences and such yesterday. So I want to ask you, regardless of the outcome tomorrow, do you think Matt Nagy is the Bears coach on Friday?
I do not. I do expect him to get fired. I am not a fan of how the Bears have dealt this situation. These news like this should never have gone out to the public until he was fired. The way the Bears handled this is a total mess, and it just shows how it's not just Matt Nagy who's the problem in the Chicago Bears. This whole entire organization is a big, big, big problem. It starts with the top. The McCaskey family needs to get its act together. Things like these should not be leaked, and they've failed the Bears for the last 30 years. And then Ted Phillips, he needs to go as well. The president, the chairman, not a big football guy. He considered himself like the brains of the operation, but he does not have any knowledge about the football team, I feel like, and he should not be there anymore. Ryan Pace, someone, a lot of Bears fans have mixed emotions on. I think he deserves to go also. I don't trust him to pick another head coach for the Chicago Bears. And also just feel like he's overspent his way into creating a roster that does not even win games like that much. So Nagy should go, and so should the whole entire management. I do expect Nagy to be fired this Friday. Despite of what happens, the Bears could win by 40, and he'll still be canned just because of how the McCaskey family didn't turn down the rumors. If they did, then I would have believed that he would have not been fired. But since no one in the upper management has said anything about these rumors or hasn't shut these rumors down, I expect him to be gone on Friday.
Yeah, no one actually came to bat for Nagy. I mean, he said himself that the reports were inaccurate and that he had meetings and stuff. But you saw yesterday from sources that he had been canceling meetings all day, had a meeting with the upper brass. We don't know much about that. But Dan Wieder tweeted out, one source described the Bears brass handling of yesterday as remarkably clumsy, noting that the organization's professionalism in moments like these are judged by at least somewhat league-wide by other coaches, execs, etc. So no one really came to back from Matt Nagy, and to some extent, I don't blame the Bears as well. That was a bombshell of a report by Jordan Schultz that came out on Monday talking about the players wanting him out. And I may have actually called this. I said a couple days ago when you and I recorded, Parth, that regardless of outcome, you fire him after this game. At this point, I still do believe that is what's going to happen. And I think it's what needs to happen. I don't think I'd essentially be really mad if he stuck around, because he's definitely still, as I mentioned earlier, a dead man walking and is not going to be around in Chicago for much longer than another month and a half. But you want to set a high precedent in Chicago. You want to show the players, the fans, the rest of the front brass that you don't accept mediocrity, and this has been going on too long and you've seen too much. So I expect that Nagy definitely will get fired after the Thanksgiving Day game. Parth, a little bit of a shorter episode today, but we're going to close it off just by talking about this. It doesn't really matter, because you'd assume tomorrow, if the Bears can pull it out, that they would move to 4-7, and the playoff picture is still way out of reach. But taking a look at who else the Bears could look to replace Nagy as the interim head coach for now, the three candidates that stand out, and we don't even know how much longer these guys are going to be around after the season's over, but the ones that stand out are offensive coordinator Bill Lazor, maybe quarterbacks coach John DeFilippo, as well as defensive coordinator Sean Desai, and special teams coordinator Chris Tabor. Who do you think would be the best pick to make as the Bears interim head coach if Nagy does go midseason?
I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Pettin, he's a defensive assistant for the Bears, he could also get the head coaching job, the interim, because of his past experience. But I expect the Bears to go give it to Chris Tabor. I think that makes the most sense, just because he was the coach when Nagy was out with COVID. I personally would give it to John DeFilippo. I think it would be fun to just, mess around and see what happens. At this point, the Bears are 3-7. I know John DeFilippo was the head coach for the Jaguars, I think in 2018. It was a very short stint. I do know he didn't do too well of a job. He has been a good quarterbacks coach in the league for a while now, but at this point, the Bears have nothing to lose, and I would like to see us make a splash decision. I feel like it could help out Justin Fields also with a different head coach in mind too.
Yeah, I'm going to correct you. John DeFilippo was the offensive coordinator of the Jacksonville Jaguars just during 2019, but he wouldn't be a bad choice to pull up as well right now. He's the passing game coordinator and quarterbacks coach. Personally, I think it's going to be Tabor or Laser. I don't think putting much more on Sean Desai's plate is a good idea, considering it's his first year as the Bears defensive coordinator. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day, though. I think the Bears end up clearing house for the most part at the end of the season anyways. So
none of these
finish
guys
out
will be
with
here.
whoever you think can maybe ignite the locker room a little bit, and maybe we can play spoiler at the end of the season. But that'll pretty much do it for this episode of Uncut. Should be interesting to see how this Matt Nagy situation plays out. We're going to keep covering it here for you guys. So if you haven't already, do us a favor, drop a like, subscribe, follow wherever you may be listening. And any breaking news that comes out in these next 48 hours, as well as reacting to the Bears game, we are going to be doing. So be sure to keep an eye on us. We're going to be bringing you guys, once again, the most comprehensive Bears coverage on the web. If you want more content from us, head to our website, beareddown.com. Link is in the top of the description. If you would like to find the podcast on Instagram and Twitter, you can find it on both platforms at Beared Down. And finally, you can find the links to all of our personal social media pages down in the description for myself as well as Parth. It's a great way to interact with us, and you can see our thoughts on all things Matt Nagy, all things Bears, the entirety of the NFL, as well as Chicago sports. Parth Shaw, it seems like even though Matt Nagy's days here very much so might be numbered, it's a discussion that we're going to keep having moving forward as it continues to heat up and things get spicy in Chicago. But any last words before we sign off here?
Yeah, it's getting spicy. It feels like we'll have a lot more content to create because of this. I mean, I don't like the Bears to be in this spot, but there's a lot more to talk about. We'll be able to record videos about potential replacements and stuff, which will be fun. I'm excited to see what the Bears can do this offseason. There's a lot of things that can be done. At this point, I'm fully on to just development of Justin Fields and looking forward to next year. This year has just been an absolute yes.
As I said earlier, it's
crash
been a
show.
blunder.
It's been a blunder. So yeah, I can't swear on these, so you got to keep it PG. So it's a little bit difficult sometimes when talking about the Bears.
Yeah, be getting demonetized, but yeah, Parth, you mentioned it. It's all about the future. I am excited to when the time does come around to look ahead and see who some new head coaching candidates could possibly be. You mentioned it. It's more content for us to make, not essentially the type of content we would want to be making. But as I said earlier, we've seen enough in Chicago. It's time to move on and get someone in here who can develop Fields and bring in some more offensive talent. So, guys, it's been a pleasure to be your host. Once again, my name is Chris Malpe. Guys, one more thing, and I almost completely just had a brain fart there. Bears-Lions pregame show coming later tonight. Be sure to look out for that. We'll be making our picks for the Thanksgiving Day game. Another double upload. And Bears fans, as always, do us a favor and stay safe and bear down.